Hi everybody, it's Leo Brady here with AMovieGuy.com. I am here with fantastic director, documentarian Penny Lane. I love the name.
Thank you.
I'm sure you get that a lot.
I do.
We're here to talk about her awesome new documentary, Hail Satan.
I approve of your pronunciation.
Yes, I mean, I'm assuming you want people to say the question mark.
It's up to you. I actually don't, but
No?
but I do like watching other people decide how to
Decide
pronounce
how
it.
they're gonna say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and I've noticed your last two films have had punctuation.
I
Your
know.
film before that's an exclamation mark, and then
It's not.
And now,
It was never meant to be. I'm hoping it never happens again.
yeah. So let's talk to our audience right now about how you just got involved and the idea to make this documentary about the Satanic Church.
Yeah, the Satanic Temple.
Temple, yes. sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah.
The Satanic Temple was a phenomenon that I had sort of observed from afar through like news headlines in my social media feed.
Right.
And I never actually read the articles, but they kept popping up, and I was like, these headlines are great.
Yeah.
Like, they're funny, and like, I thought that it was obviously a joke. I thought that there was no Satanic Temple.
Right.
But that there was a couple people who had a really good prank going on.
Yeah.
You know, kind of political, satirical prank.
Yeah.
And that they were doing like good work in the name of that prank. So it wasn't until my producer, Gabriel, sent me a longer article, like a reported out article about them that went more into detail about what was actually going on, that I was like, oh, this is so much more interesting than I thought. Like, this is not just a political prank. There is a Satanic Temple. It does have, at that time, tens of thousands, now hundreds of thousands of members.
Right.
And this was a real religious movement. And so I was like, I'm very confused. What's your religion? So it was just like this kind of thing where my expectations were kind of continually subverted.
Yeah.
And so that's what I look for.
Yeah.
You kind of want to know, like, well, will my audience have this kind of experience that I'm having?
Right.
Where for 90 minutes, they will be entertained, but also like provoked.
Yes.
So that's kind of how it started.
That's awesome. So I'm kind of gonna, I wrote out some questions, but like I wanted to ask you what might be a very broad question, and
Sure.
this is something for me as myself as a lapsed Catholic.
Yeah.
On like a pretty much a daily basis. What do you think, and even for people watching this movie, what do you think about the word hypocrisy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that something? Because like I think that is something that I kind of take from a lot of people who claim to be religious believers or people who believe in whatever their faith is.
Is that kind of where your lapse came from?
Yes, because it's like I see a lot of hypocrisy. Like they preach like accepting of others, but then they're not accepting of others. They preach like,
don't rape children.
Right, exactly. Like they
to use the obvious example.
Yes, exactly.
It's funny that I feel bad bringing that example up as if it's not fair. I'm like, it's pretty fair.
Yes, it's very fair. And I think like too, I wonder if like groups like even notice the hypocrisy that they're showing when they're trying to put a statue of the Ten Commandments on government property, and then they're not accepting of the Satanic Temple.
Right.
I mean, is that something that...
I think that the hypocrisy element that you're bringing up is the beginning of most Satanists' journey to Satanism.
Yeah.
It's kind of this awakening moment, and for many of them it happens at the classic time. It happens in adolescence, where you sort of wake up to the idea that the adults around you are hypocrites.
Right.
And everyone has that moment.
Yeah.
Like, it's not unique to Satanists at all, but for a Satanist, it's the beginning of a lifelong kind of break with all of society, in a sense,
Yeah.
And for a Satanist, what they do is they say, I want to be the opposite of these people. Like, you can imagine being that Catholic 12-year-old.
Right.
What would be the opposite of these people? Because these people are jerks,
Right.
And that often does lead them to Satanism.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Because who would be the person that, you'd be told by your Christian leaders, your adults around you, that the worst thing you can be is a Satanist.
Right.
That's very appealing.
Yeah.
To a certain kind of person.
For sure. And also too, like I wanted to sort of talk about Lucien Greaves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying his name right?
Yep.
Good. Okay. I was fascinated by him, and I kind of wanted to know, like, so as you're sort of collecting all this footage of him, and as you were going along with him, what sort of did you take from like his character in general?
Yeah.
Because he seemed like somebody that was just very genuine and honest.
Yeah.
And he like even when you get to the point in the documentary where there's kind of a little bit of a breakage from the woman who's leading the Detroit chapter, he still seems to really care about like what he was doing and promoting like religious freedom.
Yeah.
You know?
I think the first big surprise with Lucian was just how much he didn't want to have this role.
Yeah.
Like, in some ways, he's not very well suited for it. Like, he's not a kind of charismatic cult leader type person.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, he's so allergic
Yeah.
to the idea of being a charismatic cult leader type person that
Right.
that he like fights it in ways that probably hurt the organization. You know what I mean? Like, he'd be better off if he were like a charismatic, you know.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, he doesn't want this. There's two things he wants more than anything. One, he wants the Satanic Temple to prevail in all the ways that you understand that might mean. And then in two, he does not want the Satanic Temple to be the Lucian Greaves story.
Yeah.
So that every, you know, news hit is about who is Lucian Greaves anyway? Where did he grow up and what happened to his eye?
Right.
Like, that's like his worst nightmare, because he just thinks this is such an important set of issues that he's called to do this work. He's been called to do this work, and he has like no choice but to do it.
Yeah.
And now that he's put his face out there and his identity out there on the line as the public face of this organization, he has no choice but to see it through.
Yeah.
Because if he lets it go terribly wrong, that's on him now.
Yeah.
So that's a really tough situation to be in. And
yeah, it's like becoming the face of something that you really didn't want to
he
be
never
the face of.
wanted to, and you see it in the film, you know,
Yeah.
the moment where he's like, crap, someone's got to actually lead this thing. And the other two guys won't even show their faces. So I guess it's me. And, you know, and I don't want to like say there's nothing about that role that he enjoys.
Yeah.
But as someone who knows him very well, I can say with total certainty that most of it he doesn't enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, this is like your fourth documentary?
Fourth feature.
Fourth feature
Yeah.
documentary. And at least three of them, you know, R. Nixon's in like 8mm footage, and Nuts is with like animation. But this is sort of a little bit more of a standard documentary.
Yes, it's my first normal documentary.
Normal, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, would you say that this was harder, easier?
It's the same.
Yeah.
Some things were harder and some things were easier.
Yeah.
I mean, I think mainly it was really fun to, you know, with every project I try to do something new. You try to learn something new, you know.
Yeah.
So with this project, it was certainly how to direct camera crews on set and that kind of stuff, and I'd never done it before. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it wasn't harder or easier. It was just the same.
Yeah. It was just status quo.
There's always stuff you have to learn to make a film, you know,
Right.
and at least if you're me and you try to do something different with every film, which I guess not everyone does, but
Yeah.
I really try to push myself, you know, technically and also formally with each project.
Yeah.
And this film, like, it was like the subject matter is so radical and so extreme that the correct container for it was a more conventional documentary.
Right.
Like, that was just the right balance, you know. I didn't have any interesting experimental film about Satanism that I wanted to make.
Right.
I really wanted this to. I just knew that part of the point of the project was that so many more people would be interested in the Satanic Temple than know it currently.
Right.
Like, almost no one thinks they want to know.
Yes.
What's the Satanic Temple? I don't care, is what most people would say.
Right.
So how do I bring those people in? You know, it's got to be like really entertaining and really accessible to bring that audience in.
For sure. I mean, and you do that with like little bits of like pop culture references,
Yeah.
like Rosemary's Baby scenes and things of that nature. But I think like, too, I mean, it kind of seems like a full circleness of your being a documentarian, because it's just like this is a little bit more of a different subject, something that people like will immediately sort of latch onto, as opposed to like Nuts, or even R. Nixon, like films that kind of are a little bit more, you know, eccentric, I guess would be the word.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
different,
yeah.
you know?
No one, like, you wouldn't know John Brinkley is interesting.
Yeah.
I have to tell you. Whereas
Right.
Satanism, the plus is that everyone has a reaction.
Yes.
So that's good.
Which I've noticed in like telling friends.
Yeah, no, even isn't that funny?
It's like fascinating to see
It's
their
so
eyes
interesting.
pop.
I know people have like really strong reactions,
Yeah.
and I've never made a movie before where the title alone, you know,
Yeah.
it produces such a strong reaction in like everybody, and it doesn't even matter like if it's a religious person or a lapsed religious person or not a religious person at all. Like everyone has a reaction to it, which is great.
That is fantastic. So, so there are definitely like scenes where you basically are out like with protesters, things of that nature. Did you ever feel any sense of like fear, even a little bit of like, oh man, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm questioning, really, should I just continue? Or I mean, I know a lot of directors have self-doubt, and I know that you know it comes with sort of being an artist. But was this a little bit, you know?
I would say that I never felt physically endangered myself. I was very concerned for my subjects. They were actually in danger.
Yes.
Nobody pays attention to the camera crew. It wasn't like your average nutball confuses me for Lucian Greaves, you know.
Right.
But I was worried for them.
Yeah.
And it didn't make me doubt the project. It just like it does for the Satanists, made me understand just how important their fight really is.
Yeah.
Including, by the way, a fight that is unstated in the film, I think, but at least as important as anything else they do, which is the fight against supernatural, superstitious beliefs.
Right.
I mean, like, the people who come out in the streets to protest them are, like, suffering under delusional ideas.
Yeah.
Like, they're genuinely delusional. People are throwing holy water at me.
Right.
Like, and they think this is real. Like, you know, and so it's actually like every time you're in that context, you're kind of, first of all, newly reminded that this is like maybe the majority of Americans.
Right. Yeah.
Who like are laboring under these medieval superstitions that are, I think, harmful.
Yes.
So I think the Satanic Temple is like, you know, for everything they're doing, one of the things they're doing the most is kind of trying to point that out.
Yeah.
Which is not something that I really ever had engaged with. I was always so kind of weirded out by religious people that I just kind of ignored them.
Right.
But this project forced me to kind of really confront it. And I was like, oh, this is actually really disturbing.
Yeah.
So I wasn't afraid for my safety, but I was afraid for America, which is a different kind of fear.
Yeah. So a couple more questions before we go. When I saw Nuts, I was like, obviously, I was a big fan of it.
Thank you.
And when I finished that movie, I was like, this is a movie that the Coen brothers should watch, take on, and turn into like a feature film. Have you ever like thought about like that film, or even a film where it's about the Satanic Temple? Would you, you know?
I don't know.
Would you ever be open to that?
I don't make fiction films, but I'd be pretty psyched if like some great director wanted to adapt one of my documentaries. That'd be cool. The thing about the Satanic Temple, I mean, I hadn't even thought of this before you brought it up, but if there was a fictional film made kind of based on the story of the Satanic Temple, it would be the very first time, as far as I know, ever, that there would be a fictional film that would be accurate about what Satanists are.
Right.
So that would be revolutionary. The closest we've gotten is like, there's one character on Silicon Valley who's a Satanist.
Okay.
You ever seen Silicon Valley, the HBO
I know,
show?
Yes, I know of it.
So Martin Starr plays a character who's a Satanist, and he's accurately representing who Satanists really are.
Yeah.
And that's like literally, as far as I know, the only time there's ever been a fictional representation of a Satanist that was accurate.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's just weird to have this kind of complete disconnect between the kind of Hollywood impression of this idea and the reality. There's no relationship between them. Yeah. Which is weird. It's just a weird feeling.
Yeah.
To be like, where did I get these ideas from about who a Satanist is? And it's weird to be like, oh, movies. Like, that's my
Horror
source.
films,
That's my source for information now. Like, cool, good to know. Well, movies and like 80s daytime talk shows, like, of course, that's where I should be developing my ideas about the world.
Jesse Raphael, right?
It's very upsetting.
All right, so one more question just before we go. You're a professor at Colgate University, and so do you sort of have sort of a code that you go by where you tell your students, like, hey, this is what you have to do, or is it just sort of, I've heard a lot of directors, whether it's Spielberg or Catherine Bigelow, it's like, just go out and do it. Is that sort of your, no?
Yeah, there are plenty of art teachers whose teaching philosophy is pretty much like give your students a paint by numbers and then pat them on the back for how good it looks.
Yeah.
It makes me crazy. I hate it so much. No, you gotta like push them to figure out their own thing and then help them do it. And the ideal outcome is that my students make work that has nothing to do with me. I don't want to see my influence in their work. If I do, I feel a little uncomfortable, but also a little bit like I failed. Like you want the next generation to make work that you don't even like.
Right.
Because that's new. Right? Like I remember the very first time one of my students came in and they had shot their entire video on their phone and it was turned this way. And I like lost it because I was like, no. And then I thought, well, why not?
Right.
Like for this generation, the whole notion that a video stream could be any shape, could be square, could be this way, and I was like, that's so interesting. But I had like a visceral hatred of it, and then I thought, well, that's because I'm old. So this is not the future. I'm not the future. They are. So it's you gotta like let them do their own weird thing and reward them for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank
we
you.
love the film. Hopefully. You get so many people here at the Doc 10 Film Festival to see it.
I hope so.
I'm sure it's going to be a great crowd.
Cool.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you
so much. Thank you.